I know you well enough. And you said, my biggest fear for you is that you're going to overthink things and not just do. And that conversation has resonated with me so much. And I wanted to spend some time wondering where that came from in your life. Like, what did you do or experience or go through where that resonated with you?
Well, first of all, the words are so sweet. Thank you so much. That means a lot. But it really resonated because I lived it. I went through it about 3 or 4 years before you. It was a thing where when I met you, I was just ending entertainment television, kind of. And I sat in a job that I was miserable in 3 years longer than I should. But I stayed in it because you debate like, well, if I get out, will I still be important? Will still people like me? I gotta support myself, my family. And then you get to a point where I was coming home every day and telling my wife how much I hated what I did. Because I woke up one morning, I remember it was a dream. I woke up one morning and I go, and no offense to anybody that does this, because some people, this is their dream, and I don't want to poo-poo on that. But I woke up and I go, wow, I just am not happy with interviewing celebrities every day, flying to where they are, waiting for them, and then them telling me how great their life is and them living their dream. And I'm like, my dream is not to sit here and interview people living out their best life. My dream is to live my best life. And it's nothing about being on the other side of the carpet. It has nothing to do with that. It's just do something you love, and I did comedy and I loved comedy. But like I said, I sat in that job for 3 years, miserable. And my wife was like, hey, no matter what happens, we'll make it work. And you take anybody that's been on television, a full-time job, you take a large hit when you decide to go on your own. It's a big hit.
Yeah, it is.
It's a giant hit of money you lose. But then you're like, well, I'm so much happier though. And then once you get happy, you're like, oh, now I can do what I want to do. And then for some reason, it's the universe, the right opportunities start coming. And I believe no, forget about money. Success is when you can say no. And you don't need to do anything you don't want to do. You could just be like, no, I'm good. That's success to me, because that means financially you're well off enough where you can choose what you want to do, and no one can force you into doing something you don't want to do.
Michael, I have a question on that. How did you learn how to say no? Because I think that is a challenge for people who have a lot of interests, a lot of skills. And you look at the business world, I work with senior leaders all the time. One of the biggest lessons, you have to choose what you're going to say no to. So how did you learn that lesson for yourself?
I think the most important thing is, you know what you don't want to do, but it's how you say no is more important than the no itself. Because you say no the wrong way, you burn a lot of bridges. And that's the whole important thing. But I learned how to say no it's all experience. Because I'm just like any reporter. When I started, I took the crappy jobs. I didn't want to cover this, but you got to cover it. And you're seeing other people. The problem is, you see a lot of people move past you in your career, and then you'll catch up and they move past you, or you may move past them. And you feel like you have to do everything. And really, when you first start off, you do. That's just the grind. You have to do everything. But then once you reach a certain point where you're like, oh, you know what? I don't want to ask that question. Well, if you don't ask that question, you lose your job. Well, this job's not that important to me then. Because now it's about integrity. It's about keeping your integrity. And it's so weird. Like, I don't want to say you don't have any integrity when you first start a job or you try to build, but you're willing to sacrifice everything to get that bump in the career, And I'm talking about hard work. I'm talking about you're willing to do everything to get that bump, work hard, work extra long hours. But once you feel like, oh, I've done that, I don't want to go backwards. That's what it is, not going backwards. And that's when you learn to say no. It's like, no, I did that already. I don't want to do that again.
So what fulfills you then? I mean, I've seen your comedy show. I went to your show when you were in Philadelphia just in the fall
Yeah.
of last year. It's now January 2024 of last year. And you were fantastic. I
Thank
had
you.
never seen a full show of yours before. So for anybody listening, whenever he's in town, highly recommend it. I mean, we were on a show together. We've been friends over the years, but seeing you perform on stage in a full show, like I could tell that that's something that you are so passionate about.
That I love it. I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything because it's a special talent. And when you get to Hollywood, I lived in Hollywood several years, everyone respects stand-up comics. Actors are like, I was on the set of Modern Family when that show was huge. I remember Julie Bowen and Ty Burrell, and they were talking to me, and I was performing that night at the Comedy Store. And they go, how do you do comedy? Now, remember, this is the biggest show on television. They go, how do you do it? And I go, what are you talking about? You're on the biggest show in the world. They go, no. People write our words. You're up there alone. We have cameras. If we mess up, we could do it. How do you do that? So the respect you get from actors and casting directors, because when I was a host, I would go to auditions and they go, what do you do? And I'm like, a host. They would go, oh, okay, go ahead. Now, when I go to the casting, they go, we saw your special, or we saw you at the Comedy Store. You're amazing. Now, it's just a different level. People respect it more, and that's, I forgot your question, but,
what fulfills you? You get fulfillment out of that because it takes a long time to figure out what exactly fulfills each of us.
But no. I think different things fulfill you along your life. It changes all the time. You know what I mean? Like, entertainment reporting, when I first got that job, it fulfilled the heck out of me. For the first 8 years, I was so excited. You know how exciting it is for a guy that's flying around the world, like the world, to interview Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, The Rock, Kevin Hart. You're at the most fabulous places in the world to interview these people. And then at that 8th year, you're like, oh, well, I know there's more. There's more of me. There's more I could give. This is great, but I got tired of hearing other people live out their dreams. It got to a point where The Rock, after I interviewed him, he would look at me and go, are you going after your real dream? I remember every time I interviewed him, he goes, this is what you want to do? Is this your dream? I go, no, I want to do stand-up and, I want to act. He goes, oh, well, here's my acting coach's number. So call it whenever you're serious. 7 years went by. Finally, that 8th year, I was like, you know what? This guy, The Rock, saw more in me than I saw in myself. For 7 years, every time I interview him, he's like, you're still here. Okay. This is what you want. Fine. But it wasn't but I was so excited to do it. And then you just reach a point where it's like, nah, I'm bigger than this. I'm better than this. And like I say, this is no offense to anyone that does it, but I just felt there was more of me. Mm-hmm. And what fulfills me is comedy and my family, because when you see my show, you see all my comedy comes from my family. So I just talk about what goes on in my life. Yeah.
A lot from your parents.
Oh my gosh, my parents, they're crazy. My parents are crazy. But you know what? That's why they're in my life. Because there's so much great material. Anytime I hang out with them, I come up with a new joke. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful.